Welcome everyone. My name is Lori Rubino-Hare. I am a professional development coordinator at the Center for Science Teaching and Learning at Northern Arizona University. And I'm joined here with Linda Burrows. Linda, you want to say hi?
Hey everyone. My name is Linda Burrows and I am the K-12 Social Studies in World and Native Languages Specialist here at the Department of Education. I'm very happy you could all come today.
And Jenna Levier.
Hi, everyone. As Lori said, Jenna Levier. I'm the Deputy State Cartographer for Arizona. I work at Arizona State Land Department as well, and I administer the Arizona Geographic Information Council, and that group is supporting this effort. So I'm happy to be here.
The plan for tonight is to really do a few more advanced demonstration on how to use the spatial analysis tools in ArcGIS Online. And I am thinking that maybe not everyone's super comfortable with or very familiar with ArcGIS Online, but we do have basic demos that are posted under resources in a website, and maybe Jenna can post a link to that you can watch later. We have videos on how to do a little more basics. And there are slides that you can follow, but I'm hoping that the experience that we go through tonight will give you a sense of what can be done as well as how you can do it. So I'm going to suggest that you just follow along and kind of play along. I hope it's going to be somewhat interactive for you. And we will post the videos later as well as the slides. So thank you for participating.
Yeah,
so the first thing I'm going to do is,
I would just add to what you said that if this interests you, if this seems really cool, but you're worried about the technology side of it, I have a whole team of GIS professionals that are excited to support and help. And so you wouldn't necessarily be on your own. You could have support. So, see if it's an idea that sounds fun and great, because there is support out there. Thanks, Lori, for letting me jump in.
Thank you, Jenna, for chiming in. Yes, so I should say that I used to teach middle school, and I started teaching with GIS back in the year 2000, which is, gosh, a million years ago, right? But I didn't jump in on my own. My husband is a GIS expert, so I felt very comfortable trying, because I know I could pick up the phone and call him. You're my husband, okay? You can reach out and get help. So you've got a lifeline if you decide to foray into this. And anyway, you're not on your own. So thanks for bringing that up, Jenna. So how many people have seen this COVID-19 trends for counties story map before? Anybody seen it? Okay, Joan has. If you haven't yet, Jenna might want to put the link in the chat for you. This is pictures are worth 1,000 words, but data and maps can tell a story when they're expertly stitched together into a story map. And so this is an example of a story map based on maps that were created in ArcGIS Online that I wanted to show you. And the cool thing is that it's not just a PowerPoint. Like, there's different slides you can go to, but when you get into here, the slides are interactive, and you can click and get more information about the slides or about the maps that are there. It's not just a static PowerPoint. So the reason I'm showing this to you is because this is something that Esri, which is the company that makes ArcGIS Online, makes available to schools for free. And there's a tool that will enable you and your students to create story maps. So I wanted to show you kind of the end product. And we'll come back to how simple it is to make these later. But the point being, I want you to really notice, is that you can't make this unless you have a bunch of maps, right? You have to generate some maps. So what we're going to walk through tonight is creating some maps together and then we'll come back and see how you make a story map with this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my slides, and we are going to, we don't just create these maps in a vacuum. Like if our purpose is to create a story map, we're telling a story about something, and we need a reason to engage in looking at and creating maps. So I'm going to guide you tonight through what we call geospatial inquiry. And so we're going to engage in powerful analysis tools within this ArcGIS online mapping program for a purpose. And our purpose tonight is going to be around the COVID theme. I hope it's not a downer, but I know that it's on everybody's minds, and I thought it would be a nice topic for us to explore. I want to mention that, again, GIS has, we talked about this a little bit, there's a little bit of a learning curve involved, and more frequently than not, when you get into using these tools and this technology, you're gonna have to troubleshoot. And the tools change frequently. So you got to just kind of what my favorite person at Esri, Charlie Fitzpatrick, says is keep your knees bent, right? If you're skiing, maybe, I don't know, we're in Arizona, but I live in Flagstaff and I snow ski. And if you fall down, you want to keep your knees bent so you don't get hurt, right? And so we have to keep our knees bent and anticipate that there's going to be troubleshooting that we're going to have to do and things aren't going to work perfectly. However, what an opportunity to motivate you or your students to really overcome and persevere. So it teaches a good problem solving and critical thinking skills as well. So I just want to kind of put that out there before I move on. The first thing I want to point out is that we can engage in geospatial inquiry without having an account, without signing in, without doing anything. So I'm going to launch ArcGIS Online, go to this site, and I'm not signed in. I'm going to just come over here and go to the map button. And when I get into the map button, I am going to see that one of the things that I'm going to want to do is modify my map so that I can change it and I can add data and things. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to modify map. And now I have some buttons where I can add some data and I can change the base map. The base map is the map that's showing right now. Like maybe I just want a light gray canvas. Maybe I don't want that topo map that was behind there. And because I'm looking for data around COVID, I happen to know that Johns Hopkins has some amazing data out there. Pop in the chat if you actually have looked at the Johns Hopkins data. But I want to search for a layer, and I'm going to search for a layer, and it tells me that I'm searching in ArcGIS Online. There's a ton of data out there. And if I type in JHU for Johns Hopkins University, I actually can find the COVID-19 cases. And one of the things that I can do is I can look and see what it is. It is by Johns Hopkins University, and it tells me here that it's authoritative data. And the cool thing is I know that it is updating frequently. This is a service that actually updates continuously. It's not one point snapshot in time. It's being served out on a continual basis and updated. And it tells me how frequently it's updated. But some of the important information that I need to know in here is that it only shows the confirmed cases and the deaths because they don't have, it says that they don't have this information because they don't have a reliable source at the county level. But I'm going to add it to my map. And once I add it to my map, I can see that it is, I can come over here to my legend and I can see that my confirmed cases are, if by size, it's showing me the cases. So seeing this and thinking about this as a learner, I'm going to show you the table before I ask you this question. You can see that there's information about the state, the country, and the confirmed cases, the deaths, the county, and that's all the information that is in there. So looking at this now, thinking of yourself as a learner, what questions might you have or want to investigate, or what are you noticing? I'll give you some time to drop some of that into the chat. People might want to change the color. Red is pretty scary. Thank you, Trish. The overwhelming of data, the visual. Okay, so you maybe want to show it in a different way, perhaps. If you're thinking about the COVID situation, what other things have people talked about? Like, what kinds of things might you be asking about or looking at? Well,
Lori, I can't tell by the size of the dot what that means. What does that mean?
Yeah, they all look kind of similar. I can click on it and it gives me a little more information. Actually, it tells me the number of confirmed cases and deaths in Coconino County. But it's hard to really visually tell, right? The circles, see, are the circles a different size for a reason? Yes, according to this legend over here, they mean something, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Okay, good. We're starting to ask, hospitalization rates, ICU rates, counties with mask mandates. Okay, so remember the story map that I showed you was showing it in a different way. I don't know if you remember, but it was showing it in a different way. And this was, the way they showed it is like this. We'll compare that, what you saw with just the dots, to this. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit to show a little more. I'm going to turn this one off so we can see. What are you noticing here? Trish said she would like to maybe see it as percentages. The dot map wasn't appealing. What about, is there a correlation for cities? Good, you're asking good questions. There's a lot more information here, and they're showing it, instead of showing it by just dots, it shows a little more distinction between the things, right? And so this was the basis for that story map that I showed you earlier. And I got it from going to this place called the Living Atlas. And so I'm not signed in, remember, this is free. I'm just like at this website, I'm not signed in or anything. Some of the questions that you're asking is all good. Like what we want to be able to add some more data and see what's maybe nearby. Is there anything nearby? Are there other factors that contribute to these cases? And so I had a question, which was, how did they go? Going back, sorry. How did they go from showing by dot here to going by polygon here? Because I think for me, it was a little easier to see the differences. Now, yes, in Arizona, we don't have a lot of difference. We're all in this epidemic stage, unfortunately. But if you come up here, you can see that there's some differences. They're under control over here. So again, how did they go from showing points to polygons? So if I go over to the details for this layer, it tells me that it was created from running the join features solution. And guess what? The join features solution is an analysis tool in ArcGIS Online, so I can make my own version of that map. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through how we do that. In order to do that, I can't do that unless I'm signed in. This was all, remember, the free data. And the free data or the free map is not going to, I mean, if I go to try to save it, it's going to say, oh, you need to sign in. So I'm going to come over here to my map where I am signed in, and I have these same layers, okay? But one of the things I want to point out is that I'm signed into what Esri gives to teachers and schools. It's called an organization account. And with an organization account, a magic button appears. And this magic button is called the analysis tool. And it's like, oh, because now I can do geospatial analyses because, okay, I can look at all these dots and interact with something, but I didn't have the power before to create them. But now I can ask my own questions and do my own analysis about where things are, what's nearby, and what's inside. So that's the cool thing. So, all right. Anything we need to address in the chat before I move on to my next
No, I think we're good.
demonstration?
Yeah, I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and put the link from the website to where to get the ArcGIS bundle, just so folks have it if they're interested. We also have some videos on how to set that up. So just echoing the support network. So
Great. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to demonstrate now is how to use the join features tool to combine two layers into one layer. So I'm going to merge this COVID-19 cases layer, which is point data, to another layer that has polygon data. And the way, so because I need to merge points with polygons in order to show data in a way that has polygons, right? In this map where it was before, it was polygon-based data. And I'm going to do that by adding a county layer so that I can do the join. And the reason they can be joined is because they both contain a field for county. If I go back to this layer and I have the county here, so I need a county layer. So I am going to do that by adding more data. So again, Living Atlas is this amazing place, and it has all kinds of amazing data that I do want you to go and explore at your leisure. There is a video on it on our website, and you can see all of the wonderful data, but I happen to know that there is a layer called USA Counties. And it's by Esri. And if I go into the properties and the details, I can see that it has not only the boundaries of the counties, which is the polygon that I need, but it also has population and census demographic information, which is going to be really rich data. So when I bring these two together, I'm going to be able to see all of the data in one place, and then it gives me lots of options for ways that I can display it, particularly because I want to be able to show the differences in COVID cases by county using color, which is what I showed you before, is what Esri had created. So I'm going to add this to the map. And right now it's really boring, right? It turned it on, but it's not really showing much information. But when I go into the table, I can see it has all these data, and it goes into graphic data, and I have to investigate that. I'm not sure why, but I know that it has the demographic data because it said it does. So when I do this join, I'm going to see it, and I'll show you. So, all right. I've added it to the map, so now I have these layers that I can work with and do a join. So the way that I do that is I want to go to my analysis tab, and this is the way that I'm going to summarize data, and I want to join features. So I am going to click that, and my target layer is the counties, the USA counties layer. And I want to include, I want to join it with the COVID-19 cases, which was my point data, right, where all the cases are. And I want to choose a spatial relationship. I want to choose intersects, because I want to see where these two data layers intersect with one another. And I'm just going to scroll down. I'm not going to do one-to-one, and then there's some other things I can do, but I do want to name it. But this actually is a pretty good name. It's joined the features to USA counties. I want to zoom to the area that I want to do the analysis with, because it takes a little bit of computer power, and I don't want to do the entire nation. I just want to do the Four Corners region. And so I can make sure my box is checked that I'm going to use the current map extent, and then I can run the analysis. One of the things that they have here is a little button that says show credits. It's going to take about 2 credits to run this, because it's again using computing power that costs money somewhere. It's free to you as an educator, but you should know that it's costing money, so you don't want to be running analyses all the time. Someone somewhere, probably Esri, is donating this, so it's free. I'm not going to run it because it takes a minute, but I have already done it. So I'm going to come back and show you the result. So I'm going to turn this one off, and I'm going to show you the result of the Join COVID to USA counties generalized. Now, it is showing me point data, and I want to see it as polygon, and that was the whole point. So what I need to do is come over here to change the style. And now, because I have all these data together, actually, before I go in, let me show you this. I want to show you the table. Now this layer has not only the COVID cases, but look, it has population, it has demographic data that I may be interested in, and it has even all the way down to the ages of the people. But if I go all the way to the end, then I can see, I don't want to make you sick, but I'm going to go all the way to the end, and here's the data that was included in that other layer of the COVID-19 cases, confirmed, and deaths. See, it's all in one now. That gives me power to symbolize it in the way that I want to, so that I can tell my story, because remember, I want to make that story map that tells my story about COVID. So coming back to here, it came in as point data, and I don't want point data. So if I click this change style button, take a vote real quick. Do you want to see confirmed cases, or do you want to see deaths? Put it in the chat. And one who wants to see deaths, one of the cases. Confirmed. We're 50-50. Deaths are sad. I agree. Let's go with confirmed cases. You can do it later on your own and show. But instead of choosing counts and amounts by size, which is showing me the size and the dots, I'm going to do counts and amounts by color. Oh, look at that. I made my own layer, and I can see it by color. Wait, it didn't hold. It didn't take. There it is. So now I have it displayed by color, and I can change all of this is a ton of stuff that's in the pop-up. I'm not going to go into this, but there is a way to come over here and configure the pop-up, and I can change what shows. You like mine, thank you. I can even change, I can go back and I can change, if it wasn't showing enough distribution, I can change the way that it's classified. I can do it by natural breaks. I can change I can lie with maps, right? We know that you can lie with statistics. So there's a lot of power there. And I've done that. So I've already done one of the maps that Esri already did, and I can do it. So I'm going to stop for a second. And I'm going to ask, as a teacher now you've been thinking of us as a student or a learner, right? You want to ask questions and how you want to think about these data. Now think about it as a teacher. Put your teacher hat on. Is there a concept that you teach that could be enhanced by showing concentrations of something by the color of where it is in a polygon? Putting you on the spot. You can unmute and talk, or you can put in the chat. Density. Can you say more, Linda?
Well, I'm just thinking back, I'm like, God, when I taught AP Human Geography, it's like I would do one of these, you know, have my kids do one of these like for each unit, where it's like, okay, what's the question, the problem, and use it, because you get into all of that in that particular class. But even still, like teaching government or my economics classes, all different ways to look at, you know, like income distribution or housing, and, you know, just to see the different densities and, you know, how you can, because I would teach my kids that maps are like anything else, that maps lie like anything else, because they're just as biased, and you have to source a map just like you would source a document, or you source, you know, some kind of study, you know, want to know who's paying for it, where did it come from, who are the scientists, and, you know, who's the writer and author. And so I think this is such a powerful tool that you could use with really anything. But, you know, when I think of color, you just instantly, like with the core plus, it's like, okay, like densities, high and low kind of thing pops to my head. But it's like, oh God, I wish I was back in the classroom. That's what I'm sitting here like going through this. It's like, oh.
I'm glad that you got excited. Yeah, all of those things that you said, thank you. And Joan said population density, of course. One of the things that I didn't show you though is that if you wanted to, like, you can even add an attribute and you could show confirmed cases of ages 10 to 14. And you could show it by like, there's different ways of doing it. You can do by the predominant category. You can do a predominant category and size. You can do it by color and size. So like one is the color density and one is the size. So many options. You can compare two things and do a ratio. There's a lot of power here. This one's weird, this relationship. I don't know. I'm not going to go in and demonstrate all of these, but I wanted to just show you the possibilities so that your brain goes, I want to explore this. Absolutely, Joan. Yes, get your students to think critically about the data and questions that they could consider what we might be looking at, debating on what to analyze. Thank you. Okay, that's not the only powerful analysis tool we have. I have some others that I'd like to show you, unless we have questions before I move on. All right, so another powerful analysis tool that we have at our fingertips here is called Enrich. Enrich, and I think you're going to get so excited. It's data enrichment. We're going to enrich the layer, and it retrieves demographic and statistics about people, places, and businesses in an area or within a selected travel time or distance from a location. And it essentially does what we just did before was a spatial join. It does a spatial join kind of automatically with features that are available in Living Atlas. And it blew my mind when I first saw this because it's just so cool. So I'm going to demonstrate it, and I'm going to get a little bit of input on what you can do. I'm going to take the layer that I've just created, this join layer, and I want to enrich it. And I can see there's a couple places I can go up here to analysis, or I can go straight to the layer that I'm working with, and there's the analysis button. And I want to go to data enrichment, and I'm going to hit enrich layer. And so the layer that I want enriched is the join layer that I just created. And I can select variables. This is going to blow your mind. I think it is. Look at all the data that we have available to choose where we can, again, I'm trying to add this so I can tell another story. Remember I had some demographic data. I showed you what was in that table. What else might I want to add to try to say what's going on with this COVID story? So these are some of my options. And just off the top of your head, I know you have not explored these, but what are some things that might be interesting out of any of these categories? Anything interesting? Pop it in the chat or take off and your mic and speak, please.
Lori, it might help to read some of them off. They're kind of small on the screen, so it's kind of hard to see.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. So I have
Mhm.
population, I have income, and remember population and age were in there. Households, I'm not sure what that is. That might be interesting. Housing, health, education, business, race, spending, behaviors, that would be interesting. I don't know. Jobs, poverty, marital status, at risk. I don't know what that is. And again, if I were doing this in earnest, I would have gone to Living Atlas and looked at all the things that are available. I wouldn't just randomly choose these things. So I saw income. Income might be a good one. So let's add income. And in income, I can actually look and see that there's disposable income or food stamps. And it tells me all of the households receiving food stamps. This is from American Community Survey for over the 5 years from 2014 to 2018. Income and housing. Let's go back to housing. Let's see what's in there. We have historical housing. We have home value, rent versus own. Let's see. Owner and renter. Look at that. There's owner and renter. Okay, so I can add all of these things. Just so you know, when I did this earlier, again, I can go ahead and I'm done selecting my variables. I can do it within a line distance, but I'm not going to. I don't even have to. I can just run the analysis. Again, I want to use my current map extent and run the analysis to show the credits so that I'm not spending too much money. Because if I am eventually working for a company, I want to not waste their money. Oh, they're saying I had to select the variables. I had to click. Okay. And I just select some variables. Okay, so I've selected some variables and then I would run the analysis. I did it earlier, again, because I didn't want to waste your time. And I did health insurance, food stamps, median income, houses below the poverty line. And so here is my enriched layer. And I want to see the table. I want to show you the table so you can see what's in there. So it has all the things that I had before about population and demographics. I'm sorry that this is going a little fast. I want to get to the area where I have average household size. I have married households, married with children, families, average family size, vacant, owner occupied, renter occupied, owner renter. I have going over here. This is the stuff from the COVID, right? Deaths and confirmed cases. I have the health insurance, food stamps, all of that. And why do I want this? Now I can actually go in and remember I can choose things that I want to show. I can add an attribute. I can have the confirmed cases with the number of households on food stamps, and I can compare. And so I can do, I think I'm gonna do color and size. And so this is gonna show me the cases that are confirmed in color, and then the bigger the circle is, the more households with food stamps. And so this might not be telling the best picture, but it's interesting. Of course, there's going to be more people on food stamps in the Phoenix metro area than up here in Navajo County, but because there's less people, but it might tell the story. There's another thing that I can do, and I can filter the data by going over to here, and it can say, you know, I want to choose that the, I want to go like state is Arizona. This is alphabetical. But the state name is Arizona, so that I can just see the Arizona ones. And it shows me just the Arizona data. I could filter, I can do all kinds of filtering and querying of the data. Yay, Jonah's excited. Yes, it's very exciting. I'm hoping this is getting your brains, again, I got so thrilled with this enrichment, the possibilities, especially because I did used to teach social studies. I'm at the Center for Science Teaching and Learning, but I used to teach social studies. So I was just like, what? All right. Teacher hat. What is a concept that you teach that could be enhanced by exploring, by adding some data and enriching it with some of those concepts, those possibilities? Yes, civics. There's a whole, I could share with you, Deborah, there's a whole site called GeoCivics. Look it up. Voting. Who voted? Who were they? Where were they? There's another thing that we have on our resources page called Geo Inquiries that Esri has created. There's these small lessons that are already pre-created, and there's a couple examples. There's a world geography Geo Inquiry lesson, and it uses the Enrich to explore how the population in Central America has changed after Hurricane Mitch, and then 10 years later. That might be interesting. Yes, Michelle, information on the ecosystem would be in, you could browse the Living Atlas layers. I don't have a ton of time to go in there, but in Living Atlas, there's some stuff in ecosystems. And then just through that first searching for layer from ArcGIS Online, in ArcGIS Online, you can look for scientific data as well. So you might put in, you know, I don't know. It's not going to come back as, I haven't gone through that, but yes, you can do this. Food deserts, health problems, energy, water uses. Yes, yes, your brains are going, your juices are flowing. I love it. Okay. I have another analysis tool to show you. All right. So another analysis tool, and I've been doing a lot of summarized data. There are other tools, but there's another analysis tool under summarized data that's called Summarize Within. And it allows me to run descriptive statistics on data that falls within another boundary. So like two layers that fall, like something that falls within this boundary, I can run statistics on it. So I want to know the capacity of the hospitals within city boundaries. That's something that I think is interesting. So what I need to do before I can summarize the hospitals that fall within the city boundaries, I need two layers, right? What do I need? Hospitals and the city boundaries. I'm gonna show you, first we have to start there. So I am going to I'm going to search for layers in ArcGIS Online. I want you to notice that I'm searching in ArcGIS Online this time, not in the Living Atlas and not in my own content. And I'm going to type in Arizona hospitals. And I know that there is Arizona hospitals by AzGeo, and Jenna is here representing the Geographic Information Council, AzGeo. I trust this source. Do you want to say something about it, Jenna?
Sure. So AzGeo is our state clearinghouse. That's our one-stop shop for authoritative data. So I work very hard to have all of our sister agencies and everybody in the state that are authoritative sources for data to put their data in our clearinghouse and make it available to everyone. So what's really cool about it is that you can access it directly through this interface. You don't even have to go to the clearinghouse, although you can, you don't have to. And so Lori's accessing our data through the interface. It's really great.
And then the other layer I said I needed was the Arizona cities, right? And so I've already done a little bit of homework, and I found that there's one called Arizona Incorporated Cities. And again, I'm looking for the one that's by AZGeo because I trust it. That's something you really want to talk to students about when they're starting to add data, is like, you don't want to just put in rando data, you know, you want authoritative data. And so now I have my Arizona hospitals. And when I click, I can get information about the hospital, and I have, I could show the table that shows me what's in there. It has the capacity, okay, and it has lots of information. Then I have the incorporated city boundaries. I also can show the table for that. Again, remember, the reason that GIS is powerful is because there's data behind the points. It's not just a point. It's got a lot of information. So it doesn't have a ton there. It's just like the name of the city and the boundary, but I know it's a polygon layer because I can see it's a polygon layer. Cool beans. So I am going to go into the city boundaries layer, and I'm going to, remember, I wanted to summarize within. I want to go to summarize data, and I want to summarize within. So within incorporated city boundaries, I want to summarize the Arizona hospitals that fall within the incorporated city boundaries. And I want to add a statistic, and I want to know the capacity, and I want to know the sum. How many beds are in that? So there's lots of hospitals that might fall within a city boundary, like especially if it is Phoenix City, right? There's probably more than one hospital. I want to know the total capacity of all the hospitals in the city boundary. So capacity, my statistic is sum. I could do average or something else, but I want to do sum. And then again, I'm gonna scroll to the extent that I want to run it so I don't waste credits. I'm going to do just at the Arizona credit level. I can see how many credits it takes. Last time I did this, it didn't show up. Okay, it's a very small number of, there's 214 records, so it's not very expensive to run. I'm going to run it. After a couple minutes, it will run and it'll show up on my map. Again, I've already done this, so you don't have to wait for it. And I have it right here. I named it the capacity of Arizona hospitals within incorporated city boundaries, so I know what it is. And now when I turn it on, I can show the, it's not showing me anything because I'm in California. I need to go to Arizona, right? There it is. I can zoom to the layer by really quickly going to zoom to. And there I have it. So now it tells me the number of, I can show, there's, in Wickenburg, there are only 19 beds, hospital beds.
Wow.
In Casa Grande, there are 141 hospital beds. But the cool thing I can see here is I can see that there are hospitals within city boundaries, but look at this, there's no hospital here in Quartzsite. So someone's gonna have to travel if they're in Quartzsite and they need a hospital bed in for COVID. Look, Buckeye is gonna have to travel. So that is another very cool thing. The other thing is, look, I see that there are 91 hospitals within city boundaries. If I compare that to the table of how many hospitals there are total, there are 123 hospitals total. So that means I have 32 hospitals that are outside of city boundaries. There are tons of analysis tools that I did not get to demonstrate. This little I button gives you a lot of information about what the tool does. And so the next, I think that if I were to be really doing this and trying to investigate COVID, my next step would be to, one of the things we noticed is there were places, there were cities that had no hospitals and that people were going to have to travel. So I would probably likely go to use proximity, and I would want to know the drive time distance for someone to drive from Buckeye or Wickenburg to the nearest hospital. I might want to create a buffer around something, like I may say this is my house, and I might want to add a point and create a buffer that says how how many cases, I don't know, I might say like around this point, how many hospitals are near me within X number of miles, whatever, from my house, so that I know. There are a lot of tools and a lot of power in this amazing tool that's free to you as a teacher. I showed you a lot of the summarized data. There are some analyzed patterns. We talked about density. You can actually do some hotspot and calculating densities and cluster maps. You can find centroids, like the central point within an ellipse. You can do view sheds and watersheds, science teacher, Michelle. You know, there's just so much power. I can't show it to you. I taught for 20 years and I never knew everything that GIS could do. But I wanted to give you some stuff to think about. And one of the things, the reason we did this is because it's the hardest thing for teachers to get their head around. Like, how can I use this for teaching? And how can I use the power of the analysis tools for teaching? And there's this map, this little poster that's available, and maybe Jenna can put a link to the poster in the chat for you. But this idea, at the beginning I showed you like what's nearby, what's inside, most and least. This is another way of thinking about it. What are the best locations and paths? What are the patterns? How can I make predictions? These are all of the things that you can think about and bring that. I always like to say it enhances something you're already teaching, right? We don't want one more thing. But this is a tool that can bring that engagement that we need, especially when we're teaching in virtual environment. This might engage students to be able to really use their brains and ask questions and think. All right. I promised I'd show you how to create a story map. How often data changes. At least the data changes. So for the COVID map, it will tell you if it's being served by an authoritative source like Johns Hopkins University. They were updating it hourly. Some of it though, you add it and it's a static point, it's a snapshot of data. And so it'll tell you when that data was collected. That's why I keep showing you the item details and looking at what we call the metadata. It's the data behind the data. It tells you that kind of information. I have 3 minutes and I want to show you how to do Storymap. So real quick, we'll pop over to Storymap. You do have to sign in to create a Storymap, and it's a widget-based tool, and this is how easy it is. I'm going to use a widget, a template. I can give it a title. I can come over here and add media. Now that I have maps to add to it, it's not just a fancy PowerPoint. I can come over and I can choose maps and I can choose what I want displayed there. Maybe I just want to show the capacity. And I place it and then it's in my story. And then I come over here and I write some text. And then I can come over and I can add a separator. And then I come down here and I want to add a video. And I have a link to a video that I want to embed. And it's a story about Arizona COVID. And I add it and it becomes part of my story. And then I want to add another section. I just come down and add another section and I have more information. So easy. All right. Your students will go nuts with this, right? Easy. I mean, it's widget based. It's just like drag and drop. And I can preview it. There's my story. I don't know why the Doug Ducey video isn't showing up, but it typically would.
Well, and Lori, maybe that's a good thing to say too. There are lots and lots and lots of story maps out there. So to get ideas about topics and different ways of doing things, you can really spend endless amounts of time looking at examples of
Come over to our website and we have resources for you. I do want to respect your time. It's 5 o'clock. I would like to encourage you to try the ArcGIS competition. We have 2 schools that have registered so far, but if you are interested, you can come over to our website and find out more. And you can also, if you have questions, you can contact us. But I do want to thank you. And I have a minute, I can stay on, but I understand you probably need to leave. So I'm gonna say bye and thank you. But in the meantime, I'm gonna just have our questions up there. You are welcome. We will be posting all of this. Yes, the video. I want to chop it into smaller videos so you don't have to watch an hour.
Well, and Lori, we already have videos up on the website too that are just like quick little 2-minute, 3-minute. So there's a lot of resources there.
Yes. We hope to see more entries, and even if you don't, I just hope that you explore ArcGIS and teaching with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Do you want to stop recording now, Lori?
Yes.